The story of the Aos Sidhe stretches back to the beginning of written Irish myth and forward into the present, creating a complex set of beliefs and practices. None of these alone tell us who the Aos Sidhe are, but by looking across the totality of the material, we can begin to form a picture of these beings. In studying Irish folklore or talking to people, you will find the word fairy used, as it is the closest English language equivalent to the Irish concept of the Aos Sidhe. You will also find a wide array of both Irish and English euphemisms that are used to refer to these beings. There is an ongoing debate about whether the word fairy offends the good people or not, and whether it is better to avoid using the word by sticking to other terms. The core idea behind this is that the Aos Sidhe can pass invisibly around humans and may be near without you realizing it, and so will hear you speaking about them. If you use a term like fairies, which they may not like, they could respond badly. This same idea is also sometimes applied to the word she. Euphemisms may be favoured because of the idea that they might remind the good people that they can be good to humans if they choose to. The use of euphemisms for these beings goes far back and has been common for as long as we have written evidence of them. While many of these terms are descriptive, the general idea isn't that these are descriptive terms necessarily, but rather that they represent positive ways to speak about these beings, which can remind them of their own potential to be benevolent, or at least not harmful. What do they look like? Yeats described the Doini Maha as looking much like humans, although prone to wearing slightly outdated fashion. Described throughout accounts as around 5 feet tall, sometimes slightly taller, with a range of hair colours and body types. They may blend in with the humans around them if they choose to. We see the idea of their human appearance reinforced in much of the anecdotal evidence, particularly stories of borrowed midwives, stolen brides, and musicians who spend a night inside a fairy hill, many of which describe interacting with beings that are about the size and appearance of humans, although distinctly not human. There would seem to be then at least one type of more powerful fairy people who do or can look very much like humans and may even pass for a human to some degree. These are often referred to as the Duaini Ushler or the gentry. Not all of the good folk fit these descriptions though, and we also find those who are said to be between 18 inches and 3 feet tall, and those who may appear in various animal forms. They may appear wearing any colour, but most often are described in red or green, less often in white, or in some combination of these colours. Where are they from? There are several different beliefs about where the Aos Sidhe came from and how they arrived in our world. These theories are often tied into how a particular person or group understands the nature of these beings. We will include several of the more popular theories that you will find, although you should understand that there is no one agreed upon origin for these beings, and in some cases there are multiple versions of a particular theory, which may not all be included here. And ultimately, it's quite likely that there is no one simple answer to this question, but many possibilities. 1. Gods. One of the main theories of the origin of the Aos Sidhe is that they were or are the Tuatha Dé Danann, the old gods of Ireland. We are told in the myths that when humans arrived in Ireland, they fought with the Tuatha Dé Danann and eventually defeated them. Part of the agreement of this defeat was that the humans would keep everything on the surface of Ireland, while the Tuatha Dé would keep the other half, that is, the land below the surface. This story is told in more depth in two myths, Gamble an de Tisha and the Andashte de Mitha. Once they had gone into the Sidhe, the Tuatha Dé Danann became members of the Aos Sidhe. 2. Angels. One of the most common origin stories for the Aos within Christian cosmology is that they were angels who remained neutral in the war in heaven. There are different versions of this belief, but one common story is that when Satan rebelled against God and was defeated, God cast the angels who had fought with the devil into hell, where they became demons, and punished the angels who refused to take sides by casting them into purgatory or trapping them on earth, where they became fairies. In another popular story, it is said that in his anger over the rebellion, God threw open the doors of heaven and all the angels were being pulled out. Michael begged God to relent, and he finally shut the doors. Those angels who had fallen into the earth became demons, while those who were still falling through the air became fairies. 3. Demons. Related to the second belief, there is a less common belief that the Aos are demons, or otherwise under the authority of the devil. In both of the above instances, there is a strong thread of belief that the good folk are seeking salvation, and several points of folklore rest on them asking a priest if they have any chance at salvation. MacNeil relates a couple of these based on the idea that in older times, the Aos would work the field during harvest time, but when they asked a priest their question and were told that they had no chance for redemption, either because they lacked a soul or because they did too much evil, they refused to do any more work. 4. Fomorians. A primordial group of beings who appear as antagonists across Irish myth. There is at least one reference in the Cathmoi Tuired that explicitly calls the Fomorians the warriors of the Sidhe. While this is not a particularly popular theory for the origin of these beings, it is worth including here for consideration. 5. Primordial spirits. Of course, it is always possible that the Aos ultimately are none of the things that human mythology paints them as, but rather are ancient spirits that pre-existed humanity. This origin is found in some anecdotal accounts and may be supported in myths which refer to the riders of the Sidhe existing prior to the Tuatha Dé Danann going into the Sidhe. 6. Humans. Although not the origin for all of the Aos, we do find stories of some of the people of the fairy hills having once been human. Sometimes the human is said to have died and is later seen amongst the fairy host, while in other accounts the person is taken alive. Once taken, they are transformed into one of the Aos. 7. Ancestors. It has also been suggested, particularly in more recent years, that the Aos may be the ancestral spirits or the spirits of ancient humans. This theory does have some popularity to it, especially among some pagans, but it is predicated on the idea that the Sidhe fairy hills are Neolithic or Bronze Age burial mounds, and that some of the stories of the Aos tied to these places represent an embedded memory of the original purpose of the places. Beyond these more detailed and common views, there are also many other personal ideas about the origin of the Aos to be found in anecdotal accounts. The fairy faith in Celtic countries, for example, includes testimony from various people across 19th century Ireland, some of whom believed the good folk were Firbolg, another mythic race, or were beings who came from the stars. There is no certainty to this subject, but many possibilities. Where are they? While we can and do interact with the Aos in the human world, as well as in dreams and visions, it's understood that these beings have a world or reality of their own as well. It's unclear in mythology exactly where the Aos or the Tuatha Dé Danann came from, but it is suggested that their place of origin wasn't the human world. In one story of the arrival of the Tuatha Dé Danann in Ireland, it claimed they arrived in clouds and mists and landed on a mountain, for example. Beyond this, they are also understood to have a realm or existence beyond or outside the human world, which we will discuss now. The Otherworld. The Otherworld is a complicated place that may be best understood as a series of connected places rather than one contiguous location. Often in stories, this is described as an island or series of islands off the coast of Ireland, which is generally hidden from mortal sight. These islands are unique to themselves but all have similar qualities, in that they are outside of the mortal world. The Otherworld may also be reached through the Sidhe. The Otherworld has a different flow of time from the human world and is usually known for its lack of age or illness, although injury and death from conflict can occur. The Sidhe. The Fairy Hills or Otherworldly Hills are the other main location attributed to the Aos Sidhe, although they shouldn't be understood as truly separate from or unique from the Otherworld, but more as gateways into it. Just as the term Aos Sidhe itself is both specifically and generally applied, there is a distinction and overlap between unsettling and the Sidhe. It's widely understood that the Aos Sidhe went into the Sidhe after being defeated by the Gales, although it is unclear in mythology whether they were created by the Sidhe themselves or joined beings already there. Both are hinted at in different stories. The stronger argument may, perhaps, be made for them joining existing beings within the Sidhe, although much depends on how the source is read. There is also a passage in the Altrum Dici Demetra that says that when they went into the Sidhe, the god Manilman had to teach them how to successfully live there, including giving them a means of special immortality and agelessness, as well as showing them how to pass invisibly in the human world. He could do this because he was already a powerful force in the Otherworld, specifically the otherworldly island of Evenhablach. The good folk do not exist within one cohesive grouping for the most part, not only in how we understand them but also how they interact with each other. There are very strong regional associations with specific groups of the Aos Sidhe who are usually under the leadership of a named king or queen. These groups do not always get along, and there are many stories of contention between them, enough so that certain regions and otherworldly kingdoms are known for their rivalries with each other. In some cases, they fight actual battles, sometimes leaving white blood behind at the scene as proof of their battles, as their blood is believed to be white. In other cases, they might engage in games of hurling instead of outright warfare, although it was taken just as seriously. These fights may occur to decide who gets the harvest of the other's land, but often seems to occur for no explicable reason. There are stories of humans who witnessed these battles, as well as many tales of a man who was drafted into the fight or the game so that it could move forward, as it seems sometimes the good folk could not engage each other without the inclusion of a living mortal on the field. Otherwise, they live in much the same manner as their human neighbours, having livestock, tending crops, spinning, eating, drinking, seeking lovers, and enjoying entertainments. Like the humans around them, they were even noted to enjoy smoking tobacco and drinking both whiskey and poutine. There is at least one account of the good folk having a baptism for a baby within the Sidhe, as we might expect humans to do. And yet, despite all of these similarities, they are also distinctly different from the humans around them, living across a wider time period, quick to react with extreme violence to things a human might find minor, seeming to delight in human suffering, yet also sometimes inexplicably kind, and with a magical ability and knowledge that is beyond humanity. To begin understanding them is to hold these two opposing concepts in mind, that they are simultaneously very like humans and also very different from them. If you want to learn more about the Aos Sidhe, then please take a look at our book, Pagan Portals Aishi by Morgan Daimler, who also provided the words for this video. An introduction to the Aishi, the people of the fairy mounds, and to Irish fairy beliefs. This book takes readers on a journey to understand the place that the fairies had in Ireland across the millennia into today. It's available from Moonbooks Publishing. Thank you so much for watching. A special thank you to our members. You too can become a member and gain early access to videos just like this one. Hit the join button for more information. Subscribe for weekly videos or ring the bell to be notified of when we post, and we will see you next time.